The other day, I said this to you in my video. This one surprised me, and I'm not gonna tell you why it surprised me, but I'm gonna tell you today why this Iron Man McGinnity coming back in an SGC 4 slab was so shocking, but also share the information I learned since I received this card back from SGC to help you make some maybe educated guesses to help you discover the exact same result I had with this Iron Man McGinnity. But before we begin, welcome back to my channel. My name is Chris, otherwise known on X, Instagram, TikTok as @CRT_sportscards. If you're new around here, welcome to the best place for T206 information. But let's get into it. Let's dive into this Iron Man McGinnity and at the same time have full transparency with you as the viewer. I, in the short term, have not actioned any of the information I have received from SGC about this card. That doesn't mean if you watch this video in 6, 9, 12 months from now that I will not have actioned that information and had similar results. But for the short term, this is first-hand information that I want you to take advantage of. So first here, let's take a look at the card. So from a visual perspective, as a 4, it displays, in my opinion, incredibly well. On the front there, you do have that stain on the maybe bottom right side or the right border, but the front is largely intact. Maybe the top right corner has a little bit of a wear on it, but largely perfect in my opinion on the front. And then when you look at the back, obviously the thing that stands out immediately is it's not centered, but we're not here for centering. We're looking at any paper loss, we're looking at any creases. You know, there again, you look at the top right corner, a little iffy, but for the most part, this is a very well-looking SGC 4. So what is so shocking about this card? And first here, if you like these videos, absolutely hit that subscribe button so you are notified when my next T206 video gets posted. And I would also love to hear your comments of this video as you continue to watch it. But what is so shocking about this card is this card used to be in an SGC A slab. Yes, this is this same exact card, but in its old A slab from SGC. And this is not an A slab from many years ago. This is an A slab from very recent with the new graphics on the flip. Now, for every one of you who is watching this video who hates grading and thinks it's a waste of money, you're gonna point to this video and say, this is why I don't like grading and why grading is a sham. But I think you need to watch the rest of the video to understand how this card goes from an A to a 4. But now let's step back in time a little bit here with this card, basically when it was graded, when I obtained the card. But let's start right there. I obtained this card March 20th, 2022 from REA for $156 with buyer's premium. That is my sale right there on the screen, and it's also visible in VCP. Now, sometime in 2023, I, as a collector for my polar bear set, got a little crack happy. I was cracking out any kind of 1s or 1.5s and throwing them in my binder because at that time, my goal was still to have a complete binder set. And so I cracked out that Iron Man McGinnity, didn't think twice about it at that moment, and it sat in the binder ever since then. So when I sent the card in to SGC with my recent 25 card order, I fully expected it to come back in A. And number one here, from a grading or regrade perspective, if I'm ever sending a card in to be regraded, I'm always gonna crack it out. I'm a little superstitious on that. I don't wanna have anyone to have sort of a preconceived notion of what the card was before. So I'll always crack it out. But when I sent the card in, I also thought it was in a PSA A slab, not an SGC A slab. So I just forgot that. But when I got this card back as a 4, I started doing some digging and trying to figure out, how did this happen? Did SGC make a mistake? Or did I just get incredibly lucky in this flip from an A to a 4? And so I had a previous email communication chain with Brent Martin from SGC where I went ahead and replied back with this question around A grade cards from SGC. And it simply states, Brent, Question for you on SGC grading for T206, or really any cards here, I would presume. If a customer just grades the card and wants to validate it's authentic, it would come back with just an A grade on the label, correct? Then if it's deemed altered by you all, it would come back with an A on the label with wording underneath, explaining how it is altered. Is there ever a situation where a card would be deemed altered and just receive the A grade with no description? And then on the A card specifically, is there a way to tell by looking at the cert through the lookup feature if the original person or submitter who sent it in just sent it in to be proved it was, quote, authentic? Brent replies back, thanks for reaching out, you are correct. If the card was altered, it would receive an A and the reason for the alteration below it. There were also instances where the collector just wants the card authenticated. And then of course he says, send me the certification number and I'll look up any details. So I sent him the number of this Iron Man McGinnity to see what he could dig up from the archives. And this is what he said back when I asked about the details on the card. He said the card received an authentic grade, but it was before we started including Y. If you would like to send it to be reviewed, you can do that as well. Now, little did he know, and this wasn't a trick or anything, that I already had it graded or regraded, and it was now in a 4 slab on my desk versus what they think the card is as an A grade at the moment. So then I follow up with, hey, I appreciate the info. Is there a specific time frame when the Y was starting to be included? I actually just had that A grade as part of my recent sub. He says, we started entering the reason for the authentic grade about 2 years ago. And that right there is the key. 2 years ago. When was this Iron Man McGinnity originally graded? This card was graded January of 2020. And side note here, it's wild to think about in the next couple of months, we are 5 years post-COVID. So when I look back at my old videos that are coming up on 5 years now, wow, I was different, very different back then. So what does all this mean when you put it all together into a ball? It means there are A grade SGC cards out there that were graded over 2 years ago that were graded just A for authentic, that are actually gradable in a numeric fashion. I got lucky in this one. This card was graded 5 years ago. The person who submitted it for grading just wanted authenticated. And think about how many collectors are out there right now discovering cards from their grandparents or their father, just wanting to get it graded for authenticity's sake. And so this was an incredibly lucky purchase. But it got me thinking, when you look at my Ty Cobb right here, you have this in an A slab. This is horrendous. This looks just like my Jake Beckley that came back as a 1. This was graded in June of 2022, just over 2 years ago. Is there potential this could come back a 1 if I resubmitted it? I don't know. But it also makes me wonder when I look at eBay, when I look up SGCA cards on eBay that look fantastic, are they gradable? Is there potential to purchase them, crack them out, and have them resubmitted?